The town of Wapakoneta, Ohio sits 90 miles northwest of Columbus, right off of I-75. Wapak's most famous resident's claim to fame is that he was the first human being to walk on the moon. Wapak is where my dad's side of the family extends from, and while visiting in the summer of 2014, I learned that the town had another landmark son that lives, well, here. This is Jim Boucher's house, and this is Jim Boucher.
This is a picture of Jackie Miller. Jackie Miller lived in Wapak, and what did she do? As a little girl, they moved into Neil Armstrong's house. She gets up in the attic, and what does she find? Toy airplane that belonged to Neil. Sunday school papers by Neil. Jackie brought him here and said, my husband's sick. We need money. I have kind of a guilt thing. I'm selling this thing out of Wapak, and it's a Wapak thing. It's the stuff that belonged to Neil as a child. But when I'm going through them, there was one in particular I look down and I go, wow, I could use this with kids. This is so inspirational. And she didn't even think about it until I said something. She goes, you like this drawing over the others? I said, yeah. Haven't you looked at it really close? I'll show you. Neil Armstrong drew this. Santa Claus taking off in a vehicle. There's the moon. The guy that walked on the planet drew the planet in here as a child. Come on. My brother out there got me into archaeology, which my brother and I became really, we became really well known as archaeologists because we're amateurs. I don't have a degree in everything. Matter of fact, you'll love this. If you look at my business card, it says archaeologist, writer. I'm a published writer. I published when I was 10 years old. I published in the New Yorker at 10, and I haven't published in there since. I haven't written anything anymore. It's awful. But anyways, I have all the stuff in my business card, and a guy was here, and the guy has a degree in physics and 2 degrees, and he goes, wow, you have a degree in all this? I said, I don't have a degree in anything. He said, what's it doing in your card? I said, I put it on there. He said, you can't do that. I said, I did. I'm those things. I can't take the time to get a degree in it. I said, I know this shit. Really, not to jump out. And the guy, you can see him, he left here like, holy crap, he just put it there.
Unlike most children growing up, Jim recognized the unseen importance of things that would one day be lost to the world and the stories that they had to offer.
I got interested in Wapak in this area because these people were mostly German. You have German blood, I have German blood. Well, here's the thing. They mostly came from Alsace-Lorraine. So what happened? Where was World War I fought? Alsace-Lorraine. They go to Alsace-Lorraine. They're patriotic, but they're Germans. And they're going over, and one guy said, I promised my Mutter that I would go and I would go back to the old country and see our people in Alsace-Lorraine. He said, oh, I went back and I killed them, Jim. And he's crying. You understand? I knew then how dramatic it was. So what I did, I interviewed 1,500 World War I veterans. When I was 7, I started when I was 7 years old. You know why? Somebody said, you were 7 years old and you knew that. I said, it's easy. I'm 7 and I go, these guys are going to all die. And then I'm going to have to rely on the books, and I don't trust the books. I want to talk to him personally. I want to talk to Conrad Kreitzer about fighting German. And so in there I have helmets and everything guys gave me from their German experience. Sitting in school, one of the daydreaming things, and I go, wow, there's still people alive born in slavery. And they're all going to die within years. They're all around 100 years old. This is 1950s. Oh my gosh, I got to go out. One day my aunt comes in, and this is where I grew up, and I was in there in the rotary phone, and I was dialing the phone. And my aunt said, what's Jimmy doing? And I said, my mom said, he's calling old Negroes. This is the 1950s, so that was the term. I called all the nursing homes. I called black organizations, NAACP. I shook hands with 16 people born in slavery. And now when I go for speeches, black people line up to shake my hand because it's the closest they're going to get to slavery. A guy in Indiana took down his robe at 102. His whole back was nothing but scar tissue. And he said, I was lashed as a 5-year-old boy because I let the dog out of the pen and he got burrs in his fur. And the master beat me, tried to beat me to death, and I was saved by another black woman. But he said, and he looked at me, here's the hook. He goes, these scars are our scars, American scars. Yeah. Here's what people don't know about Wapak, and you might not know this. Okay, Wapak had a bad reputation. Ku Klux Klan. I got a lot of Klan stuff. That desk in there, right, the roll top, that was the Klan desk in Wapak. That was in the Hartman building. And they said it had all these esoteric designs on it. Well, the only thing it has is a skull that's a bottle opener, a beer bottle opener that's in the front. That's as esoteric as a Klan gets, you know? And so, listen to this. That was in the Hartman building. They're tearing down the Hartman building. I'm 10 years old, and I said, my dad will buy you Burger beer. That's a beer then. When he gets home from work, if you guys get that, and I didn't tell him what it was. And it was jammed shut because the ceiling caved in on it. They wrapped the wrecking ball around it, and I put cardboard around so it didn't cut in the desk, and they lowered. Listen, I got it home here. My dad, it was jammed shut. My dad was a clock man, and he said, okay, it'll open now, Jim. He goes in to watch TV. I'm 10. I open it up. Every membership card of the Ku Klux Klan in Allen, Auglaize, and Shelby County. And you know what I did? I took my little pad and paper, go to like Waynesfield and I knock on the door and I say, I'm collecting lodge material and I have information that you were in a lodge. Can we talk about it? Oh yeah. He knew that I knew he was in the Klan, but his family didn't know he was in the Klan. I spoke in front of an all black audience one time and I said this to him. You know what you guys want to know? You know what you want to know from this honky? You want to know why those guys joined that Klan. And I'm going to tell you, and it isn't going to be an answer, you're going to really understand it first. I said, I was out in Waynesfield, Ohio, and the guy said, let's go around the house. And he's a big guy, he's about your size, and he's leaning against the corn crib looking down at me, and I'm hiding behind my little paper like I'm scared to death. My legs are shaking. But I have to do it. And I said, I have to ask you, I have your card, why you joined the Ku Klux Klan. And now, when I said that, the black audience gets quiet. They've never heard this answer. And he goes like this. Young and dumb, Jim, just young and dumb. I never met a black person in my life. Listen, my dad was crazy, psychotic crazy. My mom was crazy too and was a prostitute. Listen, I hope you understand this, Jim. It's not that I wanted to be with those guys and had anything against blacks. I couldn't afford not to join. You get it? And I knew right away, even at the age of 10, oh my God, he can't afford to say to those guys that he wants to belong to something and escape the ridicule of his parents. He can't. He's got to join anything they join in order to escape the ridicule. So it had nothing to do with anti-black feeling. It had to do with trying to escape ridicule and persecution. So I said, guys, he hated you as an act of self-love. Wow, you know.
Jim's house is a menagerie of history. Each item holds a story that only Jim can tell.
This is really hundreds, if not thousands, of people's lives on these walls. And like the Holocaust stuff, wow, I got lots of Holocaust stuff that would just tear you up, you know? And you got to realize who else died in the Holocaust. I got gypsy stories, killed gypsies. The Christian group that died the most in the Holocaust were Jehovah's Witnesses. That's why I tell people, don't make fun of them. They killed thousands of them. I had a guy come in one day into the yard, and he goes, I'm 6 years old. We're inside a building. I'm with my uncle and my dad. All of a sudden, a Jeep pulls up. A young, cocky SS officer comes in. He's got a Luger, and he grabs my uncle, and he pulls us outside, and he goes like this to my uncle. Jesus Christ or Adolf Hitler? And my uncle looked down at us and went, Jesus Christ. Bam! Shot him, and I was a kid, and I went, wow, and the blood's coming out of his head, and I'm going, what? And all of a sudden, he grabs my dad. Jesus Christ or Adolf Hitler? And my dad squeezed my hand and looked down at me and said, I'll see you in heaven. Jesus Christ, bam! And he said, when my dad went down, it so shocked me, but the survivor guy came out. He ran. And he said, I got into the woods, and there were a few shots over my head, and I escaped, and I can tell you my whole story, but I ended up, and I went like this. He starts to walk away after the story. I said, wait a minute, I got to ask you one question. I know you want to leave. He said, I've never told that story. And I said, and he's not crying. He's like, and I said, how do you feel about your dad doing that? I said, come on. I said, I want to tell you the hard thing. He only had to lie. He only had to say Adolf Hitler and he'd been your father alive. And here's his line, all Christians. He goes, That's the only thing that Pilate asked Jesus to do. People say, "What do you see, Jim, when you walk through this house?" I don't forget a moment in my life because this is moment to moment to moment to moment. Every adventure that I've had in life, it's a benchmark to every one of those adventures. I can't imagine going through life and just forgetting a lot of what you've. My life is 66 years crammed full of adventure in this house, you know. I would ship stuff and the boxes would think, and I was digging sites, and then we'd have a moment when the whole family, like my mother was still alive, and then I'd open up the boxes and I'd show them one thing after another that later filled this room and where I got it in the world and what the story was, and it was exciting. And then I kept it upstairs when it was Mom's house, and Mom passes away, and then, you know, it's in the 80s, and then I just brought everything down and I filled the house full. Otherwise, this was a normal place at one time, believe it or not. And in 1981, I started at the front of the house and I started building whatever that is, and I built back to there, and I finished that temple in 9/9/99 at 9 at night.
Oh, and there's something else you should know about Jim Boucher. He has a temple in his backyard. He's dubbed it the Temple of Tolerance.
Well, people always ask me, did I think of the temple myself, or like you're asking me, did I base the temple on something else, a pre-existing thing, or Aztec or whatever? And I can answer that by saying, after I build it, it's Jim Boucher. On November 3rd, when the moon comes up, it lines up right down the opening to the altar, so I based it on my own birthday. I always knew it'd be successful for me because of the title. It's a perfect title. It's exactly my life. Tolerance. That's all I want. I want tolerance. You believe what you believe. I have Christians come in and I tell them, you can believe what you want to believe. I told one guy, I said, he all of a sudden, he's anti-gay. He's this. It's all this negative hatred. But he's a Christian. And I said to him one day, I said, you know, we don't have a problem here. You have your Jesus, and I have my Jesus. My Jesus thinks that's hilarious. Your Jesus doesn't like it. Stop killing the people that don't agree with your Jesus in his name. That's all I'm asking people. I want people to tolerate people. I had not long ago, right before, I had guys from Afghanistan. And I'm sitting up there and they're telling me about Muslim thing. They're telling me it's unbelievable misogynistic bullshit about women, and you're inferior. You don't think well. You don't know. And the thing. But I'm sitting there in a minute. If I showed a sign of that, I wouldn't got the whole story. And we started talking about philosophical, and then I suddenly realized he's not thinking on his own. He's got a template that's been put over his brain since he's a little kid, and he doesn't have any free will to actually give me his own ideas about these things. He's just babbling that thing. But somebody say, and somebody will come to my yard and say, isn't that awful? But then they'll come in and say, well, I'm a Baptist and this is what I believe. I go, really? You know, there's no wiggle room, you know? So anyways, free will is the most important thing.
The temple is a labyrinth of stories. It is the physical embodiment of Jim's ideology and focused passion for telling stories of people that history has forgotten. With that belief, Jim charges nothing for admission. Visitors from around the world come to see the Temple of Tolerance, and the temple is even known for hosting weddings.
All this cut stone, I was interested in meeting hand cutters, guys that cut stone. And you know why? It's priorities, guys. It's at a pivotal point. Most of these guys are dying. There aren't too many still alive that did hand cutting. So I put the word up. Another guy comes in, and he's a cutter, and he introduced himself. He's Italian. Behind him, he has a grandson that's pulling a wagon with something in it with a tarp over it, and here's what the guy goes. Okay, I was born in Italy. I had two brothers. My mom was an angel. My mom was an absolute angel. My dad was an alcoholic and drank everything up. So my mom would work double hard in order to give us boys a good life because my dad was no good. And he said, so one day I got with my brother and said, you know what we're going to do? There were stone cutters in Italy, but there's a lot of stone cutters there, and there's no money. He said, I told my brothers, when we go to Boston, because they put on ships sometime, when we go to Boston next time, we're going to jump ship, and we're going to swim ashore, and we're going to go to America, and we're going to make enough money. And he went like this, Jim, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you know about Italians, but my mom was real thin because she gave us all the food. But if she really wanted to be, if she really had the food, she'd be this big. Italian women like to be big. So he said, I told my brothers, what we're going to do is we're going to Go to America, cut enough stone, make enough money, and send for mom and let her get as big as she wants. He said, one day we're in Chicago and there's an archway and the guy's telling us what he wants on the archway. At the keystone, he wants a carving on there, and all of a sudden my brother comes over and pulls my sleeve and said, yeah, it's too late. Mom died. We didn't make it. And he said, we're within hundreds of dollars. And he said, I got so sad, we both wept. And the guy that owned the building saw that we were so verklempt. He said, go ahead and carve what you want up there. And he said, Jim, went like this. I knew what I had to do immediately. I'm going to tell you something. Between myself and my two brothers who have passed away, we put our mom's face on 125 buildings in the United States. We immortalized my mom because she was an angel. And she's everywhere. Another thing, he gave me a list. When I go for speeches, she's on the Dakota Hotel where John Lennon was shot. She's in every Texas. She's on this building. She's on the, and they put her face on there. And he said, there's only one building that her face, that's not existent and her face is not on, and that was that one in Chicago, because Urban Renewal, they tore it down. So he went like this and he tore the tarp off and he said, so I'm giving it to you to put in your yard, and that's her. So see the center woman between the two round things? That's his mom.
So you're probably asking yourself, why go through all the trouble to build this?
I really was working in juvie centers and prisons, and I thought in prison, I'd look at these guys and I go, too late, didn't get to them in time. You know, they have too much hatred, too much thing. I can make them feel better and I make them think philosophically about their attitude towards it. But I got to nip this in the bud early. I remember walking out and I was mad. And I go, I'm going to get to these little guys in juvie center before they ever get to prison. And then I thought, no, I'm not. I'm going to build a yard where they're going to come to me. That's exactly the thought right there. And I started, like I said, in 81, built all the way back there. I knew I wanted to make Temple of Tolerance. Those little guys would ask me, what the hell's tolerance, dude? I said, well, that's when you allow people to have other ideas. That's when your self-esteem is so high that a guy can look at you wrong and you're not punching him in the face. I said, I'm making a yard where you don't have, I had a kid, I went out there one day and the little guy's there and he's bullying kind of, and he goes, dude, you don't have to be a bully here. What? Think of the line I said to him. Don't you bully? No, that wouldn't work. I went, you don't have to be a bully here. He goes, what do you mean I don't have to be? You don't know how you can drop that game. You're equal here. You're only being a bully to show people that you're superior or you're equal. I said, you don't have to do it here. You are equal in my mind. That's opening. Temple of Tolerance, dude. Well, he doesn't know what the hell. He doesn't know where shit or go blind. Oh, sure. So here's the whole point of my yard, was to prove people, no matter what's happened to them, they still are good people that want respect and want to give respect. So I set up a situation where they can. You have to be clever with these guys because they've been very clever about building a bullshit philosophy to destroy their own life. And so you have to match that cleverness and win them up. Same thing when I'm in prison talking to guys, You have to be really clever with them. And here's the thin line. You can't be offensive and you can't attack them, and you have to be very careful. For instance, when I'm giving a speech, I used to say when I was young, do you understand what I just said? Do you know how alienating that is? What am I really saying to you? What am I saying to a guys in prison? They already think people think they're stupid. Oh, are you guys too stupid to understand that? No, you change the wording. Now, if you're interviewing people, remember this. I now say, did I make that understandable? Me. And you'll see it. If you got a film of it, you'll see two different reactions. On the first line, they're like, you fucker, man. The second line, I'm mad at that. On the second line, they're going like this. They know that I've cleverly thought of that to say to them, but they know I've done it out of respect. And now they're going to respect me back. And the funniest line, one time I said this, I'm telling a story, I start weeping. The guys in prison, though, they would rather you hold a shotgun on than watch a male cry in front of guys. They're like this. They're all hiding their eyes going, oh my God. They're embarrassed for me. Oh my God, the guy's crying. It's really bad crying. They're all sitting like this, and all of a sudden I went like this to them because I had to strike the iron. I went, guys, I'm going to apologize for one reason. A storyteller should never lose his role, and I lost it. But I'm going to tell you something else, and I never want you to forget it. I never feel more like a man than when I cry in public for the right reason. 100 letters. 600 guys, 100 letters. You know what they said? I wish I could be that strong. But if a guy looks at me wrong, I'm going to punch him out because I had a dad that was an alcoholic and life was shit and my life was nothing. And when you look at me, I think you're making fun of me, so I'm going to punch you. See, guys? It's that simple. And then when they saw that, they saw, wow, I want to be able to do that. I want to have that strength. Or self-deprecating humor, like I said, I make fun of myself. And when you make fun of yourself, it also, they can't believe you're making fun, but you're doing all that. And so what you have is, the guys in prison are really naughty children. That's what that's how I see them. They have not developed since they were a child and they started fighting. And the kids out here, I get them early, it's a great moment. And I'm answering your question here. When they're out there in the yard, I have them early enough that I can start to make inroads and build that philosophy into them before they ever get to prison. When you feel what you feel out there, I built the place. I think the kids, more than anything else, without any place else to go, make that feeling out there. Because there's 2 quotes about the yard people say. You can't come into my yard and feel depressed and leave depressed. You'll leave with some sort of good feeling. And the other people said, it's not a place, it's a state of mind. The state of mind, I built the place. You guys, when you go back there, you leave part of yourself, you make it into a state of mind.
Jim is an avid public speaker. He takes his love of storytelling on the road and travels the country to visit with community groups, schools, universities, assisted living centers, and prisons. Although he's never done a TED Talk. But of the stories he relayed, the one that left the deepest impression was the story of the most valuable object in his house.
And I'll tell you, there's nothing in this house, when I get done with this, that's going to be more valuable. This is not more valuable than this. Like I had an insurance guy come here one day and he sat right there and he goes, Jim, I'm just doing you a favor. We're going to cut the rates. We want to insure your stuff. I said, you can't insure it. And I went and got this apple. I go, so what do we insure this for? Well, what is it? It's a piece of fake fruit that's got a bite out of it. I don't know what we insure that for. I said, it's worth millions. If this was not in existence, because the woman is dead that takes the bite out of there, and I said, you can't replace it with any amount of money. Okay. First time I did this was at a prison. I go into a prison, you imagine, and I walked in. They're all chained to the floor in the front row. They're chained to the floor, these guys, with chains around them. And the guy in front of me is a black guy, and forget the NFL. This is the biggest human being I've ever seen. You know why? He's been in there for 10 years for murder, and he's done nothing but lift weights. His arms are as big as my body. He's like the guy in Green Mile. I was setting my stuff up on the table, and he's watching like it's just his eyes are moving. Tough guy. And I go, how long are those chains? And he goes like this, long enough. I get this apple out and I set it on the table and he goes like this. Oh, wow. You've come all the way from Ohio to show us a piece of fake fruit? I said, yeah, I have. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. This is the challenge. You got to back it up. You'll never see an apple again the same ever in your life after I tell you this story. And I remember you just go again. Here's the thing. I said, here's the flaw in Jim Bowsher. I live in a world that sees black and white. These people are good, these people are bad. These people are smart, these people are not smart. These people are pretty, these people are not pretty. I never understood that. I couldn't understand how you have a really cold-hearted girl that's absolutely beautiful, that people think are more beautiful than the other girl that's not that physically beautiful, but inside is beautiful. I really don't get that. That's a person you want to be with. You don't want to be with that because you're being with that. You want to be with that. I just don't get it. Really, that's important. No. So anyways, here's what I said to the guys. People have a real great ability that I was not born with. I have a flaw in my nature where I see only gray. I don't see black and white. I see everything as gray. If you show me a situation, it's gray. And there's no answer, good or bad. And I said, you guys, you all have prison records. You're all bad people. You'll be bad people the rest of your life. No matter how many dogs you pet, babies you hold and everything, you have a record, you're bad people. And I mean, they're like, whoa. So I'm going to tell you the story to show the point of view. I said, I'm going to give you a headline, and then you're going to tell me good or bad, good or evil, whatever you want to call it. Woman 22 kills boy 12 for an apple. The black guy goes like this. It's a trick question. I said, it's not a trick question. It's really quiet in there. He goes, okay, I got to ask you questions before I answer. The woman's really a 22-year-old normal woman. Yeah. The boy's really a 12-year-old normal boy. Yeah. And the only reason that girl kills that boy is to get that apple. Yeah. Evil, dude. And they all go, evil. I mean, they go into a shark frenzy. It's evil. It's no way. It's good. That woman should be killed for that man. You know, all this stuff and everything. I said, okay, now let me tell you the story. I knocked on her door. She's never told her story. And I noticed something. She had moved everything out of the kitchen because I saw the marks on the floor where she had moved it. For some reason, I never found out why. But she left a bowl on a cutting block, and it had fake fruit in it. So I think she knew what she was going to do, but it was sitting there, and I thought, wow, a bowl of fake fruit. She leans against the refrigerator to fortify herself. She closed her eyes and she says, I've never told this story, and I'm going to tell it for the first time. I'm 22 years old. I'm in the Warsaw Ghetto. I'm a Jew. They've starved us out. My mom and dad have already died, and I had to bury them. I dug a hole with my hands, and they starved to death. They turned into skeletons in front of my eyes, giving us the food. And I buried them in the floor of the place. And now I'm there, and I have my twin brothers sitting there. And my twin brothers are dying, and they need sustenance. And I can take my finger and push a thing and touch their tailbone. And their eyes are sunken in their head, and they're twins, and they're breathing, and when their heart beats, their whole body's shaking. And I know something, Jim. I have to crawl out under the fence and go out there today and find something for them to eat. And if I don't get them something to eat, they're going to die tonight, and I'm going to have to bury them like I did my parents. Now, she said, I'm in a state of starvation myself, but I was an athlete. I wanted to be a dancer, and I was a great athlete, a swimmer. So she said, I was in good shape before we starved. So I'm just running on adrenaline. But she said, I am starving. She said, I crawl out under the wire at night. The Jews have eaten everything. They've eaten the grass, the bark off the tree. They've even eaten into the human bodies that are laying there. And she said, I couldn't find anything, Jim. And I feel so bad. And I know my brothers are going to die. And there's a little shed that I stand beside before I go back under the fence. And I stood there, and I didn't want my brothers to see me so upset, because I know I was going to go in there without food, hold them, and watch them die. And so I wipe my face off, and I go under the wire, and I start to go around the building, and I saw something. And she's back there, guys. That's the great thing. If you had the film of it, she's back there. She goes, I saw something. And when I looked around, Jim, all the men have been sent to the front. It says German soldier, and he's a boy. He's only 12 years old. And she said he's eating an apple. And she said, when I saw the apple, the saliva shot out of my mouth. And she said, the next thing I knew, and she reached over in the bottle of the thing of fake fruit, and she took this out, and she went like this. I'm eating the apple. That's what I remember. I'm eating the apple. And the tears were running down my face. That's the best thing I've ever tasted in my life, and I'm eating this apple. And all of a sudden, I'm chewing. I look down, and I'm on the chest of the boy, and his head's off to the side. And I suddenly realize I don't remember what I did. I had to have that apple because I was starving. I jumped on the boy. I pushed that helmet off. I broke his neck, and now I'm eating the apple. And I went to the black guy, good or evil. Oh, it's a great moment, guys. There is no good and evil. It's survival. And the black guy's like this. His mouth's open. He goes, that is deep shit, man. Yeah, right. I think it's the first time anybody got into that savvy, smart-ass mind ever. And he's sitting there going like this. And they said, I got to tell you this, guys, though. I just about blew the interview. Because the woman goes like this. I hear you tell stories with objects. I said, yeah, I do. And she goes like this. And she handed it to me. She said, you sit this apple on a table or any place and tell that story, and people are, next time they buy an apple or go home and have an apple, they're going to remember the story because it's going to go into their head. The story has stunned me, but it's wearing off. And I wanted to reiterate as an interviewer. So I said, okay, I want to get this straight. You really wanted to become a dancer. You really wanted to be an athlete. You really wanted to give to human beings. But because of some twisted German philosophy, you ended up being a 22-year-old woman that killed a 12-year-old boy for an apple. And I went like this, what could be worse? And she goes, there's worse. And I thought, wow, the story goes on. I go, well, what could be worse? She said, I got halfway through the apple, and I thought of my brothers, and I finished it. And I survived, and they died. Guys, it's survival. She couldn't stop that. Because down inside you have something that's going like this. Only number one, only brothers, no. You survive, you survive, you survive. You do anything to survive, you do anything to survive. Doesn't matter about your brothers, doesn't matter about your parents. We all have that inside us. And so now, what does this mean to me? I go back and I look at my kids, and that's what they're on. They're on that survival level. Only me. I steal this because I want it. I want this. So now that I know this, and I'm armed with where they're coming, the basis of their unbelievable selfishness and self-centeredness. And you know what it really comes with? Because they think that they are just like that woman. It's up to me to survive. Anyways, Apple story. Yeah. So in the back of it, I cut a swastika.
For all of its beauty and antiquity, there will come a day when the temple will lose its architect.
What is the future of the Temple of Tolerance?
Well, that's a great question. So you asked me what the future is. Again, I'm somebody that doesn't believe in ownership. So there's a thing called the Kohler Foundation, and the Kohler Foundation is Kohler Faucets, and they have a lot of money. And I've contacted them once. I'm going to contact them again. And so it might be, this is too much for Wapak to handle. So they'll make a museum out of the place, perhaps. And they'll keep the temple exactly the way I want it. And what they'll do is, in this house, they'll plexiglass all the walls. Unfortunately, so you can't steal stuff. And I don't know if they're going to have a giant thing of me, and then you press a button, and then I talk endlessly. And then when I was 6 years old, what the hell does that have to do with the item in the case? Right?
Jim Bowsher is the witness and curator for thousands of stories. He's the orating vessel in which those past continue to live through. It's hard to sum up a man like Jim.
Do I have any, something I can say that will epitomize my life or represent my whole life, my philosophy, atomized down to a single thing? I'll tell you what it is, guys. If you were here and you only had so much time, I'd tell you this. And it's going to be simple. You'll never, this will be key to whether you're going to have a good life or a bad life. You will never do anything for yourself that will be as fulfilling as what you do for others. I know it sounds like Hallmark card, and I didn't believe it when I was your age. I slowly came to that. We're never satisfied. We're never fulfilled by anything we do for ourselves. Buy for ourselves, do for ourselves. It's only when we do for others, and we never forget it.
In this world, there is no place like the Temple of Tolerance. And there will never be another Jim Bowsher.